somewhere, or is it?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes,
so it was all compiled and...
It was a whole, it
different-
actually was a company that was used a lot during the Big Dig, came on board as a subcontractor to the White Kiwi team, and they put those all together. We had multiple meetings on the risk management that with the city, with surrounding cities and towns, state police, local police, fire, you know, all in the same room, and then they would throw scenarios out there. Okay, if this happens, what do we do? What kicks in?
Yeah.
You know, how far out do we, go?
So did you use any particular computer software to get all those, in front of a monitor so you could play the route out if something happened?
Well, our traffic management stuff is all in, our existing database that we use, for our traffic management and so forth. So they just use what was available, through us. The contractor used what's the scheduling software that
Primavera.
Primavera is the scheduling
Yeah, and it also, in addition, the thing was to your original question, the contractor also supplied us every week with a 3-week look-ahead schedule.
Right.
As far as the activities, so all that prep work, in order to do these bridge deck replacements, had to be thought of in advance as far as how we can at least meet the first weekend, and then continue on from there.
As far as, and I know you guys kind of looked at these questions already, on the quality management side of the bridges themselves, the prefab bridges, what took place with that? Did we just provide them a spec on what to build and they built it? Or did you guys have personnel out there overseeing it?
Both. One is any MassDOT project has got we have our standard specifications and then our additional specs that go along with it when we make changes and update. We call it a supplemental specification, but everything that's built in Massachusetts come off of that standard specification. And then certain criteria become job control, like the concrete. We needed that, in a certain time frame. So those were all part of the design build concept. So then when these went out to be built, our material section takes over and sends independent testing labs from, whether it be New Jersey or Maryland or whatever. They go in, they do independent testing for the MassDOT side. But before we even get to that, the contractor had to supply us with the quality control. And there's a set of quality control documents that get developed at the beginning of the project, and they say they're going to do this, and this, and they formulate all of that, and they do all their quality control testing off of that.
Yeah.
We oversee that, and then we do our own assurance testing after the fact. So from day one, with the first piece of steel that get cut, there was somebody from the White Kiwi team, but there was somebody from a MassDOT / consultant team that was watching them.
Right.
So no matter what happened, it was always two teams. One was a White Kiwi team, one was a MassDOT team, or / one of our consultants, from off-site stuff to everything that was on-site.
Okay. So very similar with what the Yarl concrete pour on site. When they were pouring the concrete for those bridge spans, they were
same exact.
Checking the same thing. The slump and
the difference out there was they weren't worried about 4 or 5 hour concrete.
Right.
They were looking for a normal 7-day strengths and 28-day strengths, and they were actually we sent one back. We had a panel that came through that we didn't like upon quality control assurance up here in the laydown area.
Yep.
That we didn't like the way it came through. It was noted from the design team.
Yep.
And we settled to send it back. And they took a portion of the bridge deck out under water blasting techniques, and they, it's incredible. It's high intense water blasting, and it just takes the concrete away. It also takes the coating off the steel, so we had to recoat our steel because all our steel is epoxy coated today. So we had to recoat the steel. Some of the steel they replaced, and then they repoured that section of concrete. We went through our whole testing again down there and then back up here when it arrived, and that one actually arrived the day,
Yeah.
the Friday before the weekend. They came in the morning
Yeah.
because we sent it back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
On the whole, we were getting the panels at least 7 days in advance.
Yeah.
So we had time to look at them. They had time to do stuff to them.
Yeah. And you saw they were staged in the Wilmington area. It was at the Shriners up north, and
Yeah.
So that was the only one that you had problem with.
Yes, yeah. Basically, any kind of major problem. There was always minor nicks and things that we fixed, but that's our standard spec, anyways.
minor shrinkage cracks, but
Right.
that's to be expected.
What was the
with
biggest
concrete,
challenge
so-
on monitoring the status of the project scope and managing the changes to the scope baseline?
The good part about the design build concept that MassDOT uses is the changes aren't developed by MassDOT. It's the design is the contractors, so if there's any areas that need to be changed, they have to develop that and then present it as a package to MassDOT for approval. So the changes don't delay anything because it falls on the contractor to come up with, so they don't send it to us to look at, to send back, to make changes. They do everything. It gets sent to us for a final review. If we don't like it, we send it back. Because of the critical path of this job, we did a lot of what they call over-the-shoulder review, where they would come in with a change or a design, even in the original design, because it was so critical. You gotta figure they were starting this design in February, late February.
Right.
They needed to get something to build these panels, by March. So you couldn't just keep sending things via email, PDFs, open them up, look at them.
Yeah.
So we'd get everybody in the room, everybody would look at them, they'd start marking them up with red pen, and we'd do it right over the shoulder. And then we'd literally handing plans and papers right back to the designer going, this needs to be changed, this needs to be changed. Whether it be the traffic management, the bridge work itself, the roadway portion, and everything was done in a room. And
basically, we had all parties together where we had to because
The
of the
only way you
emergency
could do it.
mentality, in order to work out the problem.
and that went on every week.
Now, whenever
Because it was something that was being moved a little bit or changed, the profile was changing. When you raise these bridges to get the vertical clearance underneath, 2 or 3 inches of vertical height on the top side, which is the interstate highway, just don't create a bump. You have to go back a couple hundred feet and mill out, start the approach differently, start layering that in. But
make sure you have a smooth transition for
you had to do
traffic.
temporary stuff to get through the weekend.
Right.
Then during the week you came back with milling machines and you retake. We literally rechanged the profile in like 4 or 5 locations in and out of the bridges because we were going up higher.
Yeah.
Especially
Yeah.
Route 16, especially.
Right.
So.
So that stuff was in the room. We're looking at grades all over a set of plans. Well, that doesn't work. This doesn't work. This, and you had designers from our office in Arlington, designers from the Boston office, the bridge inspector, the bridge engineers from Boston would be in the meetings. The construction staff would be in the meetings. The material guys were in the meetings. Everything was done right there in front. It was an open concept. Did it get heated at times? Absolutely.
Yeah.
But all in all, at the end, everybody there was no, you're a jerk. Yeah, I know I'm a jerk, but I haven't slept in 3 days. Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Trust me, I'll be better tomorrow. Okay.
That usually happen on your Monday breakdown meeting, right?
Yep, Monday was a breakdown meeting, and if things needed to be changed, they started then. We sat with the Wednesday meeting for the design changes, the overviews, the over-the-shoulders, and then we had to have them by noontime on Friday so we could either say yes, no, maybe, because Friday night we were building another bridge.
Right.
So there was a lot of times Friday afternoon, Bobby and I were getting a lot of stuff dropped on our desk saying, accepted. Thank you. Now I can go build it.
Yeah.
And there was times that we didn't get the acceptance from everybody until 4 or 5 o'clock on a Friday.
Oh,
But
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a lot to do in a short amount of time for sure.
and
you
it,
guys shouldn't get sick during all this because the hours you put in, these
Yeah.
guys did were insane.
we got beaten up pretty good.
Yeah.
Both of us got beaten up.
Yeah.
My age affected me towards the end of it.
Now, you said if changes weren't made and accepted by
the cutoff time of noon Friday morning, it wouldn't happen.
Wouldn't have happened.
Now, so what are the go/no-goes for moving on a bridge? Were there any?
We never said no-go.
Okay.
Because everything was always in the works. That's why I said, you know, even though we knew it was a noontime thing, all parties at noontime accepted it verbally in the room. We just didn't have it on paper with a stamped copy, a PE stamped copy, until 3, 4, 5 o'clock in the afternoon.
Okay.
But by noontime, we had all the remedies worked out, all the problems solved.
I would say the closest thing that we came to a no-go was the holdup within the New York Police Department.
Right.
The state police within New York, as far as
Not having panels here.
Yeah.
not panels in there, holding them in a staging area somewhere in New York, I believe,
Wow.
and it was stood right off of Interstate 87 in New York.
One of the rest areas had 3 of our panels one Thursday afternoon, and Mass State Police had to make a call to New York State Police and said either
That was
release them or
nobody.
we're going to come and steal them. Well, you know, because they come with escorts. I mean, these things are so big. I mean, they're not just driving up the highway. They got escorts.
Yeah.
So we couldn't understand why we had a New York State Police escort, and yet DOT was stopping them because they didn't think all our permits were in place.
Yeah.
Well, we had to fix 8 of our own bridges to achieve weight limits to drive our own panels over.
Yeah.
You know, because there was a weight limit on certain bridges because certain members were in critical shape that we actually had to go and repair so we could get our own parts into our own job. You know, we had 2 of those in Somerville, which were part of the turnaround area over the railroad tracks. You know, one of the up ramps that we were using by Home Depot needed some structural steel repairs because it had some deterioration in the web area, and you know, we weren't sure if it was going to collapse under the weight on some of our panels just turning around and coming back northbound. So we did those structural repairs, and again, those became critical path stuff early on,
Right.
because June was coming. So there was never, it was actually kind of good because all we needed to say was, this is for Fast 14, and people were jumping through hoops for us.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, no problem, I heard I got to take care of anything that comes our way, which was great. On a normal basis, Brian and I will tell you, we could go on months of
Yeah.
email and conversations and things don't get taken care of.
Yeah.
You'd say Fast 14, they go, okay, no problem, we'll be done next week, we'll be done tomorrow, you know, and because the word got out to everybody that, you know, this was a critical path project. You know, we need to, you know, everybody had to give their cooperation, and it worked out great.
Were all those little repairs performed by DOT, or did you have to hire some subcontractors to?
We have maintenance contracts, yearly maintenance contracts that are contractors that are on call for us.
Okay.
And we manage them and we monitor them, and, you know, structural steel, concrete repairs, deck repairs, you know, no matter what. We have those yearly contracts to our district. So we just mobilized those contractors in, they did the repairs, you know.
Yeah.
And, you know, overseen by other MassDOT personnel, but they overseen the repairs.
Up to you guys. Would you rather us ask you these questions, or do you want to just maybe photocopy what you got? Would that be easy?
Yeah, I scribbled on this.
Okay.
I scribbled on mine as well. so-
Okay.
This is truly.
I just don't want to waste your time, that's all.
Um,
So, as far as the cost then, when this was being designed, I guess, and thought of and how to do this, do you guys just go out to bid and ask them to provide, well, what would the cost be, or did we figure out internally what cost
We figured
was?
out internally a cost estimate through our consulting company
Okay.
that we had on board on what it would take to do bridges of this status.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's like any of our projects. We came out, it's called an office bid. Before we release anything to the street, we put an office value to it.
Okay.
And that's developed by internally by MassDOT people. We did the same thing here.
Okay.
We went out and said, well, what do you think this project would cost? And, you know, we came up with an office estimate, and we put that with the package when we send it out to design teams. We give it an office value.
Okay.
Now, Do all our projects come in on that office value? No. Some of them come in lower, some of them come in higher. Something that, other people, contractors think a critical path or above and beyond what we're looking for. The best part about this is it all ended up on them. We told them MassDOT is only doing quality assurance.
Yeah.
We're doing the overall review and quality assurance. You design it, you build it the way you want to build it. If you have another idea of building it, be my guest. But still got to get approved by MassDOT.
Right.
So that's why they hired Joe Gill and a couple other consulting firms, and they put their head to it, and they weren't too far off. We did a lot of extensive in-house review from September to February.
Yeah.
We had weekly meetings internally every week, or probably 20, 30 engineers on, how can we do this? How can we better? Like I said, originally we were talking doing a half a bridge at a time.
Right.
And how do we maintain the traffic? And then the biggest hurdle we had was the closure pour concrete.
Yeah.
At the end, we settled all the traffic issues, and we got into the constructability issues after that. And,
how did Jeff White get the project?
it's a bid.
It's about public bidding, right?
It's a public bidding.
So how did that joint venture come together before or after the bidding?
That joint venture comes together before. They joint venture before. On the design build concept, they put a team together. Then they do a presentation to MassDOT engineering staffs. We evaluate your team. We put a number on your team on that evaluation. Then you give us a dollar value bid, and that evaluation number gets programmed into that bid number, and then we come up with a total package number, and that's how we award the design build team. This particular one, the second team was Middlesex Corporation with Chimbro out of Maine, who was their bridge building portion.
So you didn't just select the low bidder?
We didn't select the low bidder. It happened to be the low bidder, but the whole process worked out that they were the best team, engineering-wise and build-wise, because what was really nervous to us was a non-union company, how do they add another 50 people to this project when they needed to? And White Kiewit, through the unions, could do that.
Yeah.
And that really helped on the critical path areas. I mean, because at one point we had 9, 10 bridges being worked on underneath that needed to get to critical path prior to any weekend starting.
Yeah.
They had over 100 laborers chipping out rotted concrete, bad concrete, replacing rebar, creating our new elevations on our pedestals on 9, 10 bridges underneath at the same time during the week. So there was a lot of other stuff going on besides the weekend stuff.
Right.
They were low bidder by like 30 million.
Yeah, the second bidder was 123, 124 million. So, but they were more nervous on the incentive-disincentive package.
Right.
So, they were afraid. Let's face it. Yeah.
Right. So, like you said, something that really hadn't been done before.
So, but to have Kiewit on board, White's probably one of our biggest contractors in this state, and Kiewit being one of the biggest contracts in the country, it really made a nice joint venture for MassDOT's side of it to deal with. Because they didn't mind spending $20,000 over here to get everything, to keep everything on track and keep going forward. So, we couldn't develop a concrete. So they go out, they hire the Chicago testing. They're not even involved. They don't do any work in Massachusetts.
Right.
So they come out here, they try to get it done here, they can't figure it out. They put everything in drums, send it back to Chicago, bring it into the testing labs. 3 or 4 days later, they send us a whole new spec criteria. We send it to our materials guys. They look at it, go, yeah, okay, that looks great. Let's start testing it.
Yeah.
Sent over to Boston Sand and Gravel. Boston Sand and Gravel had a couple of things they didn't like. Sends back to Chicago. They make some changes. It comes back for review again. Next thing you know, 3 or 4 days later, we're testing concrete. It's still cold. It's March and it's still cold, and we're underneath the viaduct in Boston Sand and Gravel testing concrete. So it works out.
Yeah.
It was nice to have Boston Sand so close because you needed a plant that was right there pretty much.
Close, and every one of their trucks had to have a police escort. because we were afraid it was just going to harden in the truck.
Yeah.
And we had a couple of those.
Mm.
They get up here, they go to discharge, won't come out of the chute. Send it back.
Next truck.
Next. Yeah.
Wow.
Worked out that we were pouring in the middle of the night. It worked out that, most of these concrete pours started around 1 or 2, Sunday morning, and they went to anywhere 4, 5, 6 a.m. depending on the size of them
Yeah.
into the morning. So it worked out good that it was off hours.
Yeah.
We weren't really worried about traffic. But we were afraid if that was more Sunday morning, 6, 7, 8 in the morning on Sunday morning. Now you get the rush of everybody wanting to come into Boston. It's a Sunday, spend the day in Boston. What is that going to do to all the intersections that they're going to go through? So that's why we decided we'd put them on a police escort.
Sure.
Plus
So
the
we
temperatures for the pour were much more beneficial when we poured in the early morning hours versus trying to pour it somewhere around 8 or 9 o'clock in the morning, during the summer.
Yeah.
You had some hot weekends, I remember.
Yeah.
They were really
We
hot.
had some hot weekends, we had some rainy weekends.
You go through it all.
On the change order, were there lots of them? Was it
None.
controlled? None? Was just
None. It was all on them. Their design build, if anything needed to be changed, it was part of your bid. It had nothing to do with us.
Right.
We did have change orders that we looked for because the original bridges weren't designed with snow fences out there. So we wanted to put snow fence because our specification had changed in the middle of that winter that we were doing this. We had some areas we threw snow over the barrier and we had some cars below. So our specification changed, and it didn't change until April or May. So at that point, we asked them to price out snow fence
Right.
on the bridges, which they did.
Yeah.
And at that point, it's a hand them a specification. They bid the specification. That value comes back to us. We review it. Too much money, not enough money. Where can we save money?
Yeah.
That's done on a normal process, just like
Sure.
every other extra work order.
Yeah.
So we only had a couple of those that were asked for from the MassDOT side.